Welcome to Baby Boomer Tales. My name's Jim. You can find us at babyboomertales.com. Once you've landed on our webpage, you can find links where you can hear our podcast, our Boomers General Store, our shop tales at Amazon, pictures of that great country up in north central Colorado Rocky Mountains I talk so much about, and also pictures here in northeastern Kansas, my home sweet home anymore, has been for over half my life now. Thank you for riding along today. Summer officially starts in a couple days. Amazing, huh? Up in the mountains where I was raised, summer was the best of all seasons, in my opinion. A lot of people liked winter, and winter was okay. It was a huge part of life up there. It was so long, so severe, and when I say severe, I mean a lot of snow and a lot of cold, and the ski industry is big time up there. But summer was just beautiful. I think winter was too long, and summer wasn't long enough. Fall was almost non-existent. It came and went so quickly. And spring was just mud. That's how I remember it. So summer was beautiful and glorious. Summers here in northeast Kansas can be very hot and humid. Springs are gorgeous though, and they do last a very long time. It's been a very wet spring, and things grow like nobody's business. I mowed yesterday, and I had just mowed 8 days before. The reason I hadn't mowed enough between then was it had rained every day, and the ground was very wet yesterday. I had to be careful because I kind of tore up some turf, but I had to. The grass was almost a foot in places where I had mowed 8 days before. It was all so very long. It was very, very long everywhere I mowed. And I did run into quite a bit of standing water still. But I'll remember those wet days of spring when the dry heat here in Kansas. When I say dry heat, that doesn't mean the humidity's not in the air. But we always have a dry spell around here that you think that we're going to fall into a drought and things are going to burn up, and then you'll have a nice little 3-inch rain or something. Take care of all that. So welcome to summer. Yay. The top 10 songs of 1963. That is the top 10 popular songs for the year 1963. Here we go. Number 10, The End of the World, Skeeter Davis. Number 9, Sukiyaki by Kaiju Sakamoto. Number 8 by Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs, Sugar Shack. Number 7, Rhythm of the Rain, The Cascades. Number 6, Fingertips, Little Stevie Wonder. Yeah, he went by Little Stevie Wonder back in 1963. Number 5, My Boyfriend's Back by the Angels. Number 4, Hey Paula by Paul and Paula. Number 3, Blue Velvet, Bobby Vinton. Number 2, He's So Fine, the Chiffons. And the number 1 song for the year 1963 by Steve Lawrence, Go Away, Little Girl. This song was written by Carole King. Amazing. Go away, little girl, before I beg you to stay. My first car was a 1963 Ford station wagon. It was white. It was a hand-me-down from my parents. They bought a Chrysler 300, which was the nicest, fanciest car we ever had while I was growing up. And I got that station wagon. Somehow, during the course of the coming years, I did get the title to it. I know this because one time after I was grown. I'd probably been out of high school a couple of years. And I sold that car at one of those places say, we'll give you cash for cars. $300. $300 I really got took. There's nothing wrong with that car. The only time there was ever anything wrong with that car is I hit a deer one time. Had to get some body work done. That was a nice car though. Had a big V8 in it. A lot of power. I used to drive around with a mattress in the back of that station wagon. My mother never could figure out why I'd want to haul a mattress around. Amazing. Now, the first car I ever bought after I was married was a 1978 Ford Mustang. It was a fast, quick little car that didn't get very good mileage. I think it got 12 miles to the gallon. I remember driving to Kansas City, so driving across Kansas, and sometimes you thought that I need to find a gas station pretty quick here. But that car went fast, and it was cute, and it was really my wife's car. I bought it for her. I had a pickup truck. That's always been my preferred type of vehicle. My first pickup truck was a 1953 Chevy pickup. Now, I thought for years, and I talked about this truck years ago on a podcast episode, I thought it was 1950, but we went to a car show up in town, live close to. They have events on the bricks. It's called the Main Street's all brick, and there's always something. The other day we drove by, and I bet there was 1,000 motorcycles there. Anyway, we went to a car show there a couple years ago, and my buddy Rusty was showing me the difference between a 1950 Chevy pickup and a 1953. And the 53 is how I remember that old pickup looking. It was dark, forest green. It was a great truck, and it began me on a lifetime of having pickup trucks. That was a good old truck. But that white station wagon, that was a wonderful car. It really was. The reason I want to talk about my first car and my first pickup, first car we had when we were married, all that stuff, is it's been rolling around inside of me just lately about milestones in life. Like the first day of school, or the first time you went to a school after you moved, or things like that. So I want to roll some of these past you. Maybe it'll help you remember some of your firsts. The first time I skied. Now, the ski hill in the little town I was raised in, up there in north central Colorado, Rocky Mountains, 8,000 feet above sea level, every little town had its own ski hill with a rope tow, and ours was called Frosty Basin. It's kind of the south of town, up by the clay cliffs. And I can remember being so intimidated. I was about five or six, not very old, by the rope tow. This rope tow, it would hum, and it was running along the ground, and somehow you had to grab that rope and hang on and let it pull you up the hill so you could ski down. And if you didn't do it right, you'd go flying. Skis and boots and goggles and mittens and everything would go everywhere if you didn't have it right. So that was the first time I ever skied, and I skied there for several years before I went to a little bigger ski area up towards the major ski area, and then eventually I made it to the big time. Now, I never was a great skier, and I preferred things like ski juring, where my dad would take his truck and go up on the airport road, and we'd have a rope tied to the back bumper, and we'd ski being pulled by that truck. And it was really a physical exhilaration. That's a fact. Now, my wife, she was a ski girl. She was. And that was one of the things that she really had over me, because she wanted to go skiing after we met, and I did not. But I did ski with her. I did. Moving on here. My first Major League Baseball game. I was married. Must have been 28 years old, maybe 29. My wife was visiting her parents in Kansas City, and she called me and said, "Can you get off work? I've got a couple tickets for the baseball game." Kansas City Royals were playing the New York Yankees, and the Yankees were my favorite team back then. And I drove all night, left work, drove all night just to go to a baseball game. This is basically two reasons. Denver did not have a Major League Baseball team till after we moved away from Colorado. We moved from Colorado in 1988, so the Colorado Rockies weren't even in existence by then. But another reason is my dad would have never taken me to a baseball game. Guaranteed. He had no interest, and so I think he thought, since he had no interest in things like that, I shouldn't either. So that was wonderful, going to my first Major League Baseball game. Shortly after that, I did become a Kansas City Royals fan and have been ever since. The first house I bought, we were married, and Jay came up to the house where we were living. We had bought a little trailer house. And he came up one evening and made a proposal that I would buy his grandmother's house. And I worked for Jay, and it was a wonderful job, and Jay was a good guy, and he convinced us to buy that house. Well, we sold the trailer and used that money to bring Grandma's house up to the 20th century. It was a good little house, good and warm. It was really a blessing. First time I saw the Grand Canyon. The first time, we were up there about a week, and it was spectacular every time you looked over the rim. It was. But the first time gave me experience like I never had before or since. Just the breathtaking wonderment of it all was totally amazing. It was almost like surrealistic that first time. First time in a small plane. I flew from Detroit to the middle of the province of Ontario and then landed on a lake. So it had pontoons. Is that what it's called? Instead of a runway, you land on the water. That was quite the experience. My first funeral. Now, when I was a little kid, I remember my cousin Vicky had died. And I remember being at the mausoleum. And I don't know if they put her in the mausoleum or in the cemetery that probably was next to the mausoleum. But I think they put her in a drawer in a mausoleum. But I don't remember the funeral, and I really don't know if that was the day of the funeral or if we just visited later. I really can't remember. What I do remember is my grandpa's funeral. How it almost didn't seem real from the time I heard that he had passed away through all the being with my family as people were grieving and in shock, to go on to the funeral and walking past the casket on my way out of the church, to walking outside and seeing all the people that had been there, to riding over the mountain to the ski town to the west of us where Grandpa was to be buried. That's the town that they came from to my hometown years and years before. He made it to my hometown to buy a pool hall they heard was for sale. It was an experience I will never forget, riding in that car with Connie and my grandma. And I cannot remember who was driving, but I imagine it was probably either my Uncle Dick or Uncle Cliff who drove us to that ski town. That's my first funeral. Your first child. My first child was my daughter, Erin, and it was amazing when that little baby slipped out of her mother's womb and entered this world. I'll never forget that. I won't forget either one of my daughters being born. I was right there. But the wonderment of a first child is nothing that can be explained by words. And your first grandchild. Erin, my first child, was the first one to give me a grandchild. Now I have 6 of them. Not by just her, but by both her and Allie. Amazing. A grandchild. What an amazing thing that is. What a blessing those little suckers are. How fast they grow up. My first record, 45 RPM record. I bought 4 of them at one time. I do believe I went down to the drugstore and bought them. But I do remember what all 4 were. They were Sugar Shack, and that was one of the top 10s for 1963. Remember that? Surf City by Jan and Dean. Please Don't Talk to the Lifeguard. And Hello Mudda, Hello Fada. You know, that song about Camp Granada. I about wore those out. My 5th record, and it came later, this was probably 1963, I bought those 4. It could have been very early 1964 though. But later in 1964 I bought I Wanna Hold Your Hand by the Beatles. My first dog. I always really thought my first dog was Poncho. He was my family dog. We got him when we lived in San Diego. After my dog Snowball got hit by a car, some guy in Tijuana had heard about it and brought us this little Cocker Spaniel. Poncho was basically my dog, but he was the family dog, so he wasn't technically mine all the way, although he was my pal. If I'd go downtown, he went with me, all that stuff. But my first dog was Doe. She was a mutt, but mostly German Shepherd. She was a good dog. She got in coyote poison and passed away in my arms. I had opened a shed door out at the Jap camp where I was living, and she just wandered in. We were trying to figure out what to do with all the junk in there. It had been left over, all the stuff from before World War II by some farmers, Japanese farmers. That's how the Jap camp got its name. Well, Doe immediately went into convulsions and passed away. But we were watching a girl's dog, and that dog had puppies while this girl was out of town. And when she got home, she gave me one of the puppies, and that was Baloo. And I guess technically, even though Doe was my very first dog that I had that didn't share with the family, Baloo she was my first dog. She lived till she was 16 years old. My first litter of puppies. There again. It was by Baloo. She had a litter of puppies. There were 3 daddies, a Malamute, a wolf dog, half wolf, and a dog that was half St. Bernard. That was an amazing bunch of pups. There were 6 of them. I'm leaving off my first date, my first girlfriend, my first kiss. And I'll tell you why. I can't remember. I cannot remember. I don't know how long I had to really go with a girl where she'd be actually considered my girlfriend, or I'd had a list of them a mile long. I plowed through girlfriends like nobody's business. I don't think I understood the seriousness enough of a commitment to a relationship. I really don't think I did. I don't think I was mature enough. There were some very nice girls in there. Friends, friends. I can't remember my first kiss, so it must not have been special to me. But I remember my last kiss by the girlfriend I have now. Been my girlfriend for 49 years, my wife for 48. Almost 48. She's outside planting flowers or something right now. I don't remember my first bike ride or the first time I saw the ocean. The ocean part had to be when we lived in California. There's old videos of me at Mission Beach. There's a little zoo or something there. First bike ride, I remember my first bicycle, a little blue thing. And I did a podcast once about the bike that replaced that. It was bigger, it was red, and Preston showed me how to ride it. Yeah, that about do it. I know I'll think of some other firsts later. That's how I always do these things. It'll probably wake me up in the middle of the night thinking, I should have talked about that. What I do want to talk about is kindness. Always be kind. When you get to the end of your days, you do want someone to say, that guy was always kind. I'll be back next Wednesday. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it. Peace out.